powerful. So yeah, I like that pick, and that's what I would do too.
You're listening to
Ooh, this gets interesting. So our next pick has Indulging Patrician. There's also Archfiend's Vessel and Sanctum of Tranquil Light. That's the white sanctum. The rest of the cards are somewhat mediocre. There's a Gnarled Sage, Skeleton Archer. If it's me, I'm taking Indulging Patrician and just kind of seeing where things go. What do you like here?
I would also take the Patrician, the black-white 1/4 flying lifelink. It's, black-white is not the best deck, but if the pieces are there, it is good. And it's just not that consistent. But getting a third pick Patrician after a Bosri's Acolyte seems like a decent setup for this.
Yeah.
Trust me, if we see a Drowsing Pteranodon, I'm ready to jump ship here.
Yeah, well, our next pick is up, and we don't see one, though we do have interesting options. There's a Cultivate. There's also a Revitalize if we want to go just jump right into that deck. There's a Pride Malkin here to go back with our Visionary. There's also a Snare Spinner, Opt, Witch's Cauldron. There's a few other things, but the cards that kind of catch my eye are Cultivate, Revitalize, and Pride Malkin. And what do you take from it?
It pains me to say this, but I think that Pride Malkin's a better pick than Cultivate, just because if we go that direction, I'd rather have Pride Malkin in my white-green deck than Cultivate. I think Revitalize is more of an interesting pick because it gives us an opportunity to try to make black-white life gain work, and we might wheel Sanguine Indulgence, the double raise dead.
I want to do that.
I think that's a better place to go here.
I just think
we just drafted
like
a solid green deck.
I love it.
I mean, I think that last deck was very good. And this is an example of a draft that could end you up in black-white. So I think taking Revitalize here and setting things up, like maybe if we can get a Griffin Airy or something like that, Silver Smote Ghoul, and kind of end up in that direction.
Yeah, that has been the thing that I've noticed the most about the life gain deck is that it is the black-white life gain deck is that it's very difficult to get the payoffs. You have to get payoffs, and they're uncommon. The good stuff's at uncommon. Where if you look at the other archetypes, that's not necessarily the case. Like, what's the payoff for the deck that we just drafted? It's Drowsing Pteranodon, right? Like, and that's a common.
Bosri's Acolyte.
Right, Acolyte, Here's an Anointed Chorister for our next pick. There's also Legion's Judgment. There's a Havoc Jester. I like just taking the Chorister.
I think Chorister is the best for either green-white or black-white. It's just a great card. I think Anointed Chorister is a fantastic one. Also, we're not locked into anything yet. We could easily just be like white-red. Yes. It just depends on what we get. Currently we have one green card, one white-black card, one white card about to be two, and then Revitalize, which is a white card, but is really more of a black-white card because it's not a card I would expect to put in like a green-white deck. Yeah,
but it's super noteworthy here what you just said, because we could easily, we could just be green-white. Oh, look at this. There is a lot of green and white in this pack. There's a Fungal Rebirth, a Concordia Pegasus, a Feat of Resistance. There's also Snare Spinner and Legion's Judgment. The black card's not good. Gloomsower and Alchemist's Gift. So we can take Feat of Resistance here pretty cleanly and sort of start to veer into a direction that we were in the first pack, where we're solidifying ourselves in white. And we don't know. We might be white-black life gain. We might be white-green +1/+1 counters. Or, who knows? Something else could happen.
Yeah, easy Feat of Resistance. And again, it's really strong when you've got some different decision points. The more you can do to stay monocolor and kind of delay that decision, the stronger. Though in this case, it's not even we're not making a sacrifice here.
Right.
If the Feat of Resistance weren't here and we were taking Concordia Pegasus over Fungal Rebirth, that'd be a different story. So here we got three good white creatures: Vryn Wingmare, Celestial Enforcer, which is actually just fine, and Gale Swooper, with Gale Swooper being, I think, the clear pick.
Me too. Yeah, Gale Swooper's way outperformed Vryn Wingmare, which ranges from mildly annoying to pretty significant underperformer. When somebody snipes it with a Skeleton Archer or whatever, you're just like, what am I doing? It's an okay card, but Gale Swooper actually affects the game in a meaningful way. The turn you cast it and then leave something behind that they have to deal with. So definitely Gale Swooper. And again, this puts us down that same line. Our picks right now are Anointed Chorister, Feat of Resistance, Revitalize, Llanowar Visionary, Indulging Patrician, Basri's Acolyte, and Gale Swooper. And our next pick, all right, finally things slowing down a little bit. There's a Niambi Esteemed Speaker, which is whatever. There's a Defiant Strike, a Legion's Judgment, and a Gnarled Sage in our colors, and then the rest of the cards are kind of janky. I guess you like Short Sword more than I do, so maybe you're looking at that.
I actually kind of am looking at Short Sword. I think it's good with Chorister, good with Gale Swooper, and good with Baj's Acolyte, as well as being solid with Indulgent Patrician.
I would just take the Legion's Judgment, but
I think I would just take Short Sword here, but you can go either way.
My reasoning is the first Legion Judgment is okay, and this is best of 3, and then it also keeps cutting white, but whatever. I took the Short Sword. I'm totally willing to.
My experience is you get as many Short Swords and Legion's Judgments as you want.
That is definitely true. Next pack is pretty bad. There's a Dub, a Meteorite, a Wishcoin Crab, a Blood Glutton, a Sure Strike, a Turn to Slag, and a Bloodfell Caves. I would just take Blood Glutton. Do you want to take Dub? Don't make me take a Dub.
No. I would take Blood Glutton. You don't have a strong reason to be green, because even though we've gotten past some green cards, they actually haven't been the aggressive ones. We haven't seen. We could easily be downstream of a green drafter who's taking the aggressive green cards, and here we've got an interesting pick of Valorous Steed versus Blossoming Sands, and my inclination is to take Blossoming Sands because I feel the Steed is very replaceable.
Yeah.
So I think that just keeping more outs for green white is going to be better.
Next pick has Rambunctious Mutt, Frantic Inventory, Walking Corpse, Forgotten Sentinel, and a Forest. So we're just going to take the Mutt here to keep cutting white. This is only 5 cards left in the pack, so we've kind of reached the janky section. So let's do a quick, I'll update you on what our last 4 picks are if anything interesting happens. But right now, what's your thought process going into pack 2? We're in white. We know that. So
we have, so first of all, really good sign for the black-white deck. Witch's Cauldron and Sanguine Indulgence both wield. Also a Staunch Shieldmate, which is a solid card, but I think I would just take the Sanguine Indulgence here. We have a lot of high-quality creatures, and we have we right now have 3 different lifelinkers, so plus a Revitalize. So casting Sanguine Indulgence does not seem out of the question.
Okay, so what about going into pack 2? We pick up a Liliana's Steward here.
Going into pack 2, I think we're just white with 1 green card, but green hasn't particularly been open. We saw a couple packs with green cards.
We first picked it, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's a Legion's Judgment with 2 cards left. So we're going to make sure we get those too. We've gotten past some black cards for the life gain deck. So I think black may not be open, but the life gain deck is, which is good enough. But I don't consider us locked into anything but being in white. And so I think we can kind of see where we end up based on what we open, in this case, we opened Sporeweb Weaver as the rare, the green 1/4 reach hexproof from Blue Spider. I'm not really interested in that one, I don't think. Falconer Adept is a solid uncommon. This is the 4-mana 2/3 that whenever it attacks, you put a 1/1 flying Falcon into play tapped and attacking. And I really like that with Feat of Resistance and Short Sword. We also have Thrashing Bronchodon, which is double green. Havoc Jester, the 5-mana 5/5. Not looking at that. Finishing Blow, the 5-mana kill spell, and then Pride Milk and the 3-mana 2/1.
Yeah, for me, it would be between Falconer Adept and Finishing Blow. Yeah, I'm down on Finishing Blow, but it's not unplayable. I'll still put one in a deck. But I like Falconer Adept here.
I think Falconer Adept has higher upside. We also have Gale Swooper. We have a lot of combos with it, and it's a good payoff in really any white deck we end up in here.
All right, so Falconer Adept it is. Not exciting. I found that card fine, but and doesn't really push us in a direction. Next pack comes up, and there's a Shipwreck Dowser, Trader's Greed, Quirion Dryad, and then for commons, there's Anointed Chorister, Swift Response, Deathbloom Thallid, and there's some decent stuff. There's like a Spellgorger weird here. Cards that stand out to me, though, are Swift Response and Anointed Chorister here, and I would actually take Swift Response over the second Chorister, but I don't know. You seem like you're loving the Chorister.
I would just take the Chorister. I think it's really good. Okay. I think that it fits our theme nicely, and even if we don't end up black-white, I think it's going to be good. Plus, if we end up black-white, Swift Response is good, because that deck is a little defensive. We've got some flyers. But if we end up in a more aggressive white deck, I would rather have Chorister than Swift Response, and it's going to be good in both of our decks.
All right, we'll take the Chorister then.
Discard a card.
So that's our second one of those. Ooh, bingo, baby. We hit a Griffin Airy in our next pick. There's a Sanctum of All at rare. That's the Wooburg rare. Tempered Veteran. There's a Revitalize that we could wheel, and a Secure the Scene here, as well as a Hunter's Edge and another Blood Glutton. But yeah, Griffin Airy, this is the type of card that we needed.
Yeah, so this is the 2-mana enchantment that says, beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, make a 2/2 Flying Griffin. So that's where our Choristers go into. You just attack, pump it, trade off for their 3 or 4 drop, get a 2/2 out of it. if you cast Revitalize. So this is the inflection point. At this point, I believe we are committed to black-white life gain. I think we don't have a reason not to be in there, and we got past a late Griffin area. We wield a Blood Glutton and a Sanguine Indulgence. I think that the cards have come together for black-white life gain to be the deck we're supposed to draft in this seat.
Which, it's interesting because, like you said, that this isn't one of the premier archetypes in the format, but it is actually quite a good deck when it comes together. It's just hard to get it to come together because you need to get past, Griffin Area.
And this pack here is a lot easier given the sequencing, because here we've got Wildwood Scourge, Defiant Strike, and Fetid Imp. And I think we would have had a harder time deciding between Imp and Scourge. But because we just took the Griffin area, I think it's an easy Fetid Imp. We're going to be in white-black. Defensive creatures like Fetid Imp are totally fine in that deck.
Yeah, agreed. And I've actually liked Fetid Imp at the 2-drop slot. There are some decks that really hate to see it. Green-white is just like, oh man, I have to spend 4 mana to get rid of this stupid thing. So we'll take the Fetid Imp here. Next pack comes up, and it's got Light of Promise, which looks like it would be a great payoff for the life gain deck. And it is, it makes it huge or whatever, but I have not ever really liked to see it. I just found that I get 2 for 1 way too much with it. There's a Swift Response, a Makeshift Battalion, a Gale Swooper, and a Witch's Cauldron, as well as another Fetid Imp. Yeah, it seems like we're in the right colors at least.
Certainly. And now that we know we're in black-white, here's where I like the Swift Response more than the Gale Swooper or Makeshift Battalion. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to wheel one of these serviceable cards probably. Yeah. There's not going to be a lot left. But
also of note, there's a Radiant Fountain here that we're avoiding.
Yeah, I think Radiant Fountain is really bad because all the payoffs, both our Indulgent Patrician and our Griffin area, actually as well as our Sanguine Indulgence, all key off 3 life. Yeah. So Radiant Fountain does not do much for you. And a Silver Smoke Ghoul. That's another great payoff. 3 mana, 3/1. And at the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more, pops back into play tapped. And you can also sack it to draw a card. So despite the fact that there's another Anointed Chorister here, I think Silver Smoke Ghoul is easily the payoff. Plus, Choristers do get worse in multiples. I'm happy playing 2, and I would even play 3. But you don't really want to draw multiples at the same time because you can't pump all of them.
Right. And we mentioned that the payoffs were the important part for this deck. And we have one of each of the uncommons now. So this is fantastic. I'm really happy to get that. Oh, now this is really interesting, Luis. So our next pack has Feat of Resistance, which kind of jumps off the page as a really great card for a deck like this. But there's also Malefic Scythe here, which could be really good with what we've got going on.
Yeah, so the Scythe, the 2 mana equipment, 1 to equip, and +1/+1. But then every time the creature who's wearing it dies, it gets an additional +1/+1. I think I'd take the Scythe here. We've got a lot of creatures. We've got a lot of lifelinkers.
We already have one Swift feat.
We already have a Feat of Response. I think Scythe is a really good payoff for what we're doing. And now here we get to pick up a late Valorous Steed, which I think works nicely with the Malefic Scythe. There's also a Walking Corpse, but I don't think this is a deck that really wants Walking Corpse.
We don't actually have any 2-drop creatures outside of the Imp, but I agree the Walking Corpse is kind of going a little too low. So let's just take this.
Yeah, I don't know. That's close, I guess.
Yeah, I think we can get one if we want it, I guess.
The other thing is we do have double Chorister and Liliana Steward all at once, and I actually like Liliana Steward in this deck right now. 1 mana, 1/2 sacks to make them discard, but it's good on the Scythe, and it does trade for a card.
Do you think that the Scythe effectively replaces Short Sword in our deck?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play both.
Okay.
We pick up another Rambunctious Mutt in this next pack. It's not really anything. Again, here's a pack with no black or white cards. I would take the Radiant Fountain, but I would not intend on playing it. Wow. And here we did wheel Blood Glutton, which is actually another reason maybe not to take that the Valorous Steed, because the Blood Glutton's much better. Of our 5-drops, I think we're just playing the 2 Blood Gluttons.
Yeah. Now, do you have any interest in Secure the Scene here? Because that is another card, and I don't. Okay, because I do play one of those. The fact that it can nab, non-creatures can actually be relevant.
It's not bad, but we do already have a Swift Response. We also have a lot of life gain, so I'm not as worried about flyers in this particular sense.
With 3 cards left, we got a Makeshift Battalion. Not really the deck for it, but there it is. Oh, there's a Staunch Shield Mate. Yeah, Yeah. There's that dub. It's the last card in the pack.
I do think that both of our drafts here, we have successfully identified and been in the open color, and we didn't even start white. We did first pick a green card in this pack or in this draft, but white has definitely been very, very open here. And here we have the choice between Containment Priest, Rin Wingmare or a second Feat of Resistance.
I would just take Feat of Resistance.
Yeah, I would just take the Feat here. I think it's good.
Like, especially because like Indulging Patrician gets so insane with when you have a Feat of Resistance available, because it just makes it impossible to really kill ever. I mean, the thing gets to 5 toughness after that. Of course, if you can get one more counter on it, then it's really great.
What we really want here is Grasp of Darkness. That's the one card we're really feeling the lack of. Here we have the decision between Temple of Silence, and Revitalize, and a third Feat of Resistance. Feat of Resistance does go down in value once you have a couple.
Yeah, I would take Revitalize or Temple, but this is really, really close because we definitely want another copy of Revitalize at this point. Like, it brings back the Silver Smoke Ghoul, makes us a 2/2, and or gets us the drain from Indulging Patrician, just for spending 2 mana. But Temple of Silence is like really strong in this deck. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I would just take Temple of Silence here and hope that the Alpine Watchdog, Feat of Resistance, and Celestial Enforcer all block for the Revitalize. Yeah, which I think actually they have a pretty good chance of doing that. Ooh, we got past another Indulging Patrician. I swear people are watching this live, so if you're listening to this and think we've rigged it somehow, we have not. I mean, we're going to end up black-white with double Patrician, Griffin Ares, Silver Smoke Ghoul as payoffs, and then a bunch of lifelinkers, and potentially 2 Revitalizes. This is going to be great.
Yeah, there's also another Feat of Resistance in this pack somehow. But yeah.
No, I don't think we worry too much. We might wheel that Secure the Scene, if you really want one. And here we go. Our third Feat of Resistance. This time I actually would take it, though, because... Feat of Resistance, I think, now that we have the second Indulging Patrician, I'm really on board with drawing Feats of Resistance.
Okay. Now, there is a Runed Halo in this pack as well. White enchantment. As it enters the battlefield, choose a card name. You have protection from the chosen card name. Card's okay, right? Like, Runed Halo does things.
Yeah, it's okay. It's a good defensive card, but I think Feat of Resistance is going to be better here.
Okay, we'll take Feat of Resistance number 3. Yikes! This next pack, not quite as good. There's a Fetid Imp and a Duress. Those are the only cards. This is pack 3, pick 5, by the way, in our colors. So 1, 2, 3, and there's 4. A Pursued Whale in here.
So yeah, not for us, but I think we'll just take Fetid Imp. But with Malefic Scythe and a bunch of feats, I don't really mind. This is a nice pickup here. There's a Swift Response. There's also a Sanguine Indulgence, but you don't really need 2 of those. And Swift Response is perfect in this deck. I was lamenting that we didn't have any Grasp of Darkness. Honestly, Swift Response is very close to Grasp in this deck because our threats largely have flying. We have a lot of flying threats, and I think that Swift Response is just going to do exactly what we need it to do.
Yeah, definitely, because it looks like we're not going to end up getting what's it called? Oh, wow, here's a Revitalize. Now, this is a little interesting, though, Luis. Tempered Veteran is a card that almost only goes in the green-white deck, but we have 3 what's it called?
Feat of Resistance.
Yeah, I don't know. I would just take Revitalize, but is it worth considering? I think I
would take Tempered Veteran because that combo is really, really strong.
It really is. On any of the, obviously Luis and I are dreaming of the Indulgent Patrician with a counter and then just going up. I think Revitalize would have been better.
We have 6 Lifelinkers in our deck, and that makes me pretty happy.
By the way,
trying to combo off here.
Yeah, our next pick is Daybreak Charger, which I think we might actually want to try to fit into the deck because it combos with Patrician.
Yeah, it gets us to that critical 3.
Yeah,
I like that. There's also a Light of Promise, and if there ever were a Light of Promise deck, it would be the deck that has 3 Feats of Resistance, but I don't think we can make ourselves do that.
True, exactly. Interestingly, we might get one back. There was one earlier in the deck, too.
So one thing that's going on here, and you'll see this more in the Synergy decks, is we're looking at every card through the eye of what mini combos does it have. Daybreak Charger, 2 mana, 3/1, gives a creature +2/+0 when it ETBs. Not a card Black-White typically likes, but with Griffin Airy, double Indulging Patrician, Silver Smoke Ghoul, giving one of your Lifelinkers an extra +2 is a really big game. We did wheel the Revitalize, by the way. With Enforcer and Watchdog still in the pack. So again, I think we're one of 2 white drafters, or potentially the only one, with the other people just hate drafting random white cards. All right, there's the light of promise. You could
There's
be a hero,
also
Marshall.
a Secure the Scene. There's also 4 white cards out of 5 cards left here. What do you like
I think Secure is actually going to be okay in this deck.
Yeah,
we don't
do
care
too.
about attacking on the ground, so
Yeah.
giving them a 1/1 is just not that big of a deal.
I think having exactly 1 Secure is right where you want to be.
Yeah.
Because it is a powerful card. It's just super inefficient.
But yeah, look, when we're evaluating all of these cards, it's just what synergies do they have with the cards that we already have? How many ways do we have to make them slightly better? Because look at a card like Tempered Veteran or Malefic Scythe. These cards are cards that are pretty close. Like the Scythe, for example, is pretty close by itself. Tempered Veteran's a little further by itself, but it doesn't need much in the way of combos before they end up being good enough. Same with Liliana's Steward. I don't think we're going to end up playing any of the Stewards. We got 2, but I think we ended up with too much good stuff. But I think Malefic Scythe goes a long way towards justifying a Liliana Steward. A 1-mana 1/2 that trades for their worst card, yeah, not the most impressive. But when it does that plus trades for a +1/+1 counter on your side that you get to use over and over again, I mean, that is a substantial difference.
For sure.
Looking at our card pool here, I think we're going to end up with a very strong deck. The first cards that I would look to cut are the Rambunctious Mutts, just because we already have 2 Blood Gluttons on 5. The Staunch Shieldmate probably doesn't need to be in when we have Malefic Scythe, 2 Fetid Imps and a Daybreak Charger. Plus 2 Swift Responses are kind of 2-drop equivalents in our opening hand.
Right. So right now we've just trimmed down those cards plus the other ones that were kind of junky, and we still have 4 more cuts to make. At this point, we have 15 creatures. We have to keep that in mind because we're running multiple copies of Feat of Resistance. Now we have 3 right now. We could make that 2 or something, and the Malefic Scythe. And when you run cards like Equipment or Pump Spells or however you want to categorize Feat of Resistance, you do need to make sure that you have enough targets for these. Also, Sanguine Indulgence is a card that wants to see a decent number of creatures, around, so that, you're always getting full value on it. These are things just to keep in mind, because we do have some awkward stuff here, right? Like the Revitalizes take card slots that are kind of not really card slots, right? The Griffin Airy, similar, it just doesn't do anything on its own. We need to have all these other cards, and it can be really hard to fit everything in to make it work.
So my inclination here is to cut Makeshift Battalion for sure. I think we want to cut one of Legion's Judgment and Secure the Scene. And my inclination is to cut the Judgment.
Yeah, same.
We have 2 Swift Responses and 2 Fetid Imps. I would also cut a land. I'd cut a Swamp because with a Scry Temple and 2 Revitalize, I'm not feeling that bad about running 16 land. And our curve is pretty low. We only have 3 5-drops and 3 4-drops with Sanguine Indulgence often costing less. And the rest and we have tons of cards that cost 2 and 3 mana. And then our last cut here, I think, is between a Fetid Imp, the Secure the Scene, and maybe I wouldn't cut the Daybreak Charger. I actually think it's going to be good in this deck.
What about Gale Swooper or Falconer Adept?
I would maybe cut the
fine
Gale
cards,
Swooper,
but they're not really what we like. Gale Swooper's what is it doing?
I like Falconer Adept in a deck that has Malefic Scythe and 3 Feet of Resistance, because you're going to be able to, I think, make good use of it. The Falconer Adept there by protecting it.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so let's run down what our final build looks like. Wow, this deck is sweet. We have 2 Anointed Courser at the 1-drop slot. 2 drops are Daybreak Charger, 3 Feet of Resistance, a Griffin Airy, 2 Revitalize, 2 Swift Response, Tempered Veteran, 2 Fetid Imp, and a Malefic Scythe. Then there's Silver Smoke Ghoul and 2 Indulgent Patrician at the 3-drop slot. 4 drops are Falconer Adept, Basri's Acolyte, and Sanguine Indulgence. And our 5s are 2 Blood Glutton and a Secure the Scene with 16 lands, 8 plains, 7 swamps, and a Temple of Silence.
I mean, I think this deck's fantastic. We have double Swift Response, double Fetid Imp as early plays that keep us alive. Double Indulgent Patrician with 3 Feats of Resistance and a Scythe. We've got the Griffin Airy and the Silver Smoke Ghoul. We have a lot of payoffs, a lot of removal, and actually a pretty good curve. This is just about as close as you can get to a perfect black-white deck.
Yeah, this is what you want. And again, the thing that really allowed us to get to this power level were the payoffs coming to us. And that's not something that you can control, which is why I believe that you just don't see this black-white deck super often, like that looks like this, that's really around the core themes of it. But when you do, it hurts. I almost I always feel like if I'm playing black-white, it's a really bad sign because it means that those cards were open. And it is a narrow archetype. In many ways, you know, some of the, like Griffin Airy, for example, is a card that no other deck even wants to touch, right? And same thing with cards like Revitalize. So when you do hit those payoffs, you can get the stuff, like they all come to you, right? If you commit to it, they can all come to you. The question becomes, were they opened in your pool? And oftentimes there weren't enough of them, or you have one, like you have an Indulging Patrician and then a bunch of random stuff that says gain life on it, but it doesn't really end up being a real deck. In this case, though, it did. So
yeah, we had 4 good payoffs plus Sanguine Indulgence, which is like a medium payoff, and plus a lot of support. So one thing I want to draw your attention to, if you're, you know, for those listening, what we did in both of those drafts is you saw us be very, very careful to not consider ourselves locked in. The first deck, the deck that ended up mono green splash red, I don't think we were confident that deck would, or what the second color of that deck was, until basically the mid pack 3.
Mid pack 3, right.
And it would have been really easy after taking that Leafkin on Avenger on pick 3 to be like, yeah, we're red green monsters. We actually did end up kind of in that direction, but we kept our eye open. We even took a white card very soon thereafter and thought, hey, maybe we could be green white. And you know, even with the black-white life gain deck, it wasn't again until I think mid-pack 2 where we really said, hey, we're going to be black-white life gain. And it's really important to not mentally lock yourself in where you have 4 white cards, 1 green card, and you're like, yeah, I'm green-white. And it's like, you're not green-white. You've identified that white is open. Great. That's where you should be. You don't know what your second color is. Don't think that you're supposed to take Pride Malkin over Scorching Dragonfire because you already had a Llanowar Visionary and a bunch of white cards. You just need to make sure that you keep yourself open, because sometimes you can get really paid off. Another way you can get really paid off in a situation where in both drafts we identified the open color. You know, green, we started there. White, we moved in very quickly, right? Green and white were just exceedingly open. Green in the first draft, white in the second. You know what? If red wasn't open at all in the second draft, had we opened a great red card, we could still just take it and then take the Scorching Dragonfire we might get past. And then the fact that the person to our right cut off red, who cares? We reap the rewards in pack 2.
Yeah.
In pack 3, we're not going to get any red cards, but we know why it's open enough that we can end up in a deck that's 75% white, 25% red, and has the pick of the litter of all the red pack 2. It's not a cooperative game. I'm totally happy screwing over the person to my right if I think it's going to be better for me. Yes, your decks end up better when you're not in the same colors as the people near you, but that doesn't mean you have to do that. And being open plus being willing to take advantage of opportunities is really important for draft.
Yeah, and you know, to piggyback off of what you're saying about the staying open part, one thing that you'll note about the way that we drafted these decks today and the way I try to draft all my decks is that we weren't just, so let's say you take a couple of green and white cards early and then you just sort of have your mind locked in. So that's like level 0. Level 1, what Luis is talking about, or the next level up is where, you know, you get to the point where you're like, well, I'm not necessarily locked in, but you may think you need something to knock you off of that pedestal, right? You go, oh, wow, I got a 4th pick, Grasp of Darkness. I'm moving in on black, right? You receive some big signal in your mind. While that is true, that's not what happened here. You'll note that Luis and I were very fluid about the way that we were taking these picks. And it was cards that were fine, right? Like commons that would lead you down a potentially different path and that made sense to pick because we weren't giving up that much to stay in the deck that we had sort of started walking down already. Oftentimes when you're drafting, it's not these huge bombs or premium double colored whatever that come to you, removal spells or something that shove you in, you know, where you go, that's a strong signal, I'm going to move in. It's more of a veering and flowing with the picks until things start to become more clear. The way I like to talk about this is data points, right? You almost never want to put too much emphasis on any one data point. There's exceptions as always, but generally speaking, even if you get a 4th pick, Grasp of Darkness, it doesn't necessarily mean that black is going to be wide open for the rest of the draft. It's a good sign. It's a signal that you may want to take advantage of and take it and say, I'm going to see where black goes. But I've seen too many people take a pick like that and be like, black's open, I'm taking it. That's it. And they just move in. And by the end of the draft, they have 6 black cards. and they're going, what happened here? And it turns out that the packs are pretty random and weird stuff happens all the time where, you know, I'm sure everybody's been in the seat where you opened up a pack and there was like a sweet blue rare, a really good blue uncommon, and a really good blue common. And you take the blue, rare and you pass the pack. And then your opponent who took some white card takes a good white card and just passes both of the blue cards. And the next person goes, well, I'm going to take this blue uncommon. This thing's great. And now it's fourth pick and it gets to you and there's like a premium blue common in the pack and you're like, blue's wide open. And when in reality, 2 of the 3 people to your right are in blue. This happens occasionally. This is why you don't want to plant your flag so hard on any one data point. You know, the next pack comes, there's another blue card. Okay, I'm building up a little story here and now I can actually move in. So introduce some subtlety into those decisions earlier in your draft, and you'll start to see things go better and better for you as you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like expected value, where like every time something getting past a pack, it kind of descends, where the expected value of every pack gets lower as the packs go on. When I see a card that's above that expected value, I think that could be a sign. Mm-hmm. When I see that 2 times, it's a stronger sign. Once you get past 3 late blue cards in pack 1, you can be pretty confident blue's open. You know, we had, when we were drafting green and we wheeled a pack, we took a green card out of a pack with 3 and both other ones wheeled. That doesn't mean there's no one else drafting green, but it's a pretty strong indicator that might be the case. And then once that happens 3 times, I can be pretty confident. I think I am confident there were no other green drafters in our first draft. I am also confident there was max 1 other white drafter, and it might have been half a white drafter. Mm-hmm. Like it might have been someone who had mostly red cards and was splashing the 3 good white cards they got. And you know, the more data points you get, you're, like you said, you're supposed to build up this story, and you won't be able to find the truth of the story. I guess if you're drafting in person, you can ask the people to your right what colors they are, and that's actually useful to do, by the way. If you're
during the draft.
Yes, during the draft. No, after a draft, if you draft, like an F&M or something like that, or at a store, which again, be responsible. Currently, probably not a great time to be doing that. But if you do, it's good to think, okay, what do I think the people next to me are drafting, and then find out, and then to be like, oh, okay, interesting. So you were drafting white. Why did I get all these white cards? Oh, you were drafting white black, so you were taking swift responses over makeshift battalions. And I was getting these makeshift battalions and thinking, yeah, white's open, and Gale Swoopers, when their white black control deck didn't really want those cards. So drafting is all about putting together this narrative and trying to find out which facts fit it, and then when you get facts that oppose it, balance those, then eventually come out with the most plausible story, knowing you're not really going to get the full picture, but you just have to make the best decisions you can given the information you have gotten.
That's right. And that's really what it's all about, and that's what we try to help you out with here, because you're never going to get the full clear picture, so it's all about interpreting information and signals and signs and things like that, and making the highest EV decision that you can at each point, and then those accumulate to become good drafts over the course of time. That's going to do it for this one. Hopefully, again, these are helpful for you. And if you do want to watch us draft them, you can go to the YouTube channel, the Limited Resources YouTube channel, and you can watch it as well, just if it's easier for you, or if you want to watch it back again or whatever. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Luis is LSV. You can find everything related to the show, including a link to the YouTube channel, etc., on lrcast.com. Also, the show is brought to you by Channel Fireball. Make sure you check out Constructed Resources for those of you who are into the 60-card decks and want to keep up on the tournament scene and have a similar vibe to what we have here, where the goal is to get you the information you need to succeed at these things and to keep improving and learning more and enjoying, the format of your choice. Luis and Andrew Beckstrom are doing Constructed Resources. So it's been rebooted, and the first episode exists, and you can bug Luis on Twitter to get the feeds in order here, so that you can find the show wherever it goes. Can they find it on Channel Fireball no matter what, Luis?
It's always going to be on Channel Fireball, and like I mentioned earlier, we are on a couple of the more popular podcasting platforms, and I expect to be on all of them within the week or so, just based on how long it takes. So we should be on, iTunes and the Apple Store. We should be on. We already are on Spotify. We're going to be on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, basically all the platforms. So you can always search on Channel Fireball for the time being, or look. I tweeted out the link a little while ago.
There you go. With that's going to do it for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for hanging out. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.
So it was actually funny talking to BK. He gave us a little level up on constructed resources, and I remember having the same thing happen to me. I think this happens to a lot of people, and this is where I did everything under my power to not play the best deck. And I kept not winning, and I kept playing these decks and having middling results. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you some good examples too. Until I finally switched, and guess what? Once I switched, I started winning a bunch. Mm-hmm. The first time was with fairies. This was the first time was with teaching. Sorry, they're very close together. But I remember playing. Trying my best to not play the stock version of the Mystical Teachings deck back in Time Spiral. The Mystical Teachings is a card that's 3 and a blue instant. Search your library for an instant or creature with flash, and then it has flashback of 5 and a black. And this card was a common. It didn't seem like maybe it was the most impactful, but it actually spawned really powerful control decks back in the day when things were slow enough that doing something like Mystical Teachings or Mystical Teachings was legit. Mm-hmm. And I remember trying to play all these offbeat decks and really just getting crushed. And then I switched over to Teachings, and it was like, why haven't I been doing this the whole time? This doesn't make any sense. I ended up winning a Grand Prix, actually, with the Teachings deck, with Grand Prix San Francisco, which was in downtown San Jose, oddly enough. Mm. And then not but a year later, Fairies comes out in Lorwyn Block, and I spent the first half of the time it was legal, including playing things like Loxodon Warhammer Green White Hammer Time in a Pro Tour. Me and Paul both did that, Gian. Not with we were literally the dudes who, like, they want to beat your flying deck, so they show up with a deck full of hurricanes and protection from black creatures, and the Fairies deck just laughs all the way to the bank with their cryptic commands and Mistbind clicks. Like, it was such a bad idea. They got to play Thoughtseize, Bitter Blossom, Mistbind click. I was putting over Soul of Dusk. Got to look that one up if you haven't heard of it.
I know. I remember that guy.
Cloud Thresher, and we're using Search for Tomorrow, so I can cast them a turn early. It did not go well for us, and you know what? When I switched to Fairies, I top-8'd a Grand Prix very shortly thereafter. It's like, wow, maybe I should have been playing the good deck. Mm. And then the last example was even many years later than that, in like 2013, 2014 around, when Birthing Pod was the best deck in Modern. And this is before it actually ended up getting banned. And I remember playing like Valakut in the Pro Tour, getting crushed because it was good against Birthing Pod. And it was, but it was bad against everything else. And I remember finally switching to Birthing Pod and top-8ing like back-to-back GPs with it. And it's just like, what? Why wasn't I playing the good decks? And now I just play Team of Reclamation or whatever the good deck is. And my point is that, look, if what you want to get out of playing Magic is to play your decks, to play offbeat decks, do it. Have fun. I'm not one to stand against you. Even at competitive tournaments, I know plenty of people who they're not interested in playing, Fairies at the Pro Tour. They're interested in playing their Grixis Reanimator deck at the Pro Tour. And if that's how they want to spend their time and their effort, and totally fine. But there's a lot of people who think that them choosing rogue decks is what's giving them an edge and what makes them will give them a higher chance to win. And they're intimidated to play the best deck because what if you play the mirror against someone better than you? All the pros are playing Fairies. What if I play against Paulo playing Fairies? And the answer is, if you play against Paulo playing Fairies, he's probably going to beat you with whatever deck you choose. He's very, very good. That's not a reason not to play the best deck. You should play the best deck, and you're going to get practice, because when you do play against the people who are good, you also get to see what they do in the mirror, and you can learn from that. Mm-hmm. So my best advice is, you don't always have to play the best deck. Any of the top decks is usually fine. But don't shoot yourself in the foot because you think you're not good enough, or don't shoot yourself in the foot because you think going rogue gives you the best chance of winning. If your goal at the end of the day is to pick up the trophy, then you're better off served by playing Team of Reclamation, playing Bant, playing one of these really good decks, and not trying to, make Arclight Phoenix work again because you think it's got a sweet bit of tech. So it can be these can be hard to swallow pills, but you know what? I found myself a lot happier, and I play goofy decks plenty of times. I get the opportunities to do that. When it comes to a tournament I really care about, you will more often see me piloting whatever Public Enemy #1 is.
I will use this first. Yeah, just have to like.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This episode number 548. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott Vargas. Luis, welcome. How are you, sir?
Doing great. Ready to get into a set review. I do enjoy doing these shows, even though they are, of course, bit of a marathon.
They are a bit of a marathon, but that's the point, right? We got to get through.
Pag yan may counter spell, ewan ko. Grabe to 13. So, ang play dito is to attack lang with the Megalodon so that you could... Yan! And then play this, right? So that we have 2 blockers for the lower scale. Yes. Wait. I think... Okay. What? talagang harang yung binigay, no? If I draw a swamp, I have interaction. Red. Damn it. See? Though this sucks. But yeah. Well, okay. Sorry. This I need a swamp. Oh, nice combo. So one more land and ay muna ako sa yun. One, this is 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So if ever nakagawa sila ng paraan to I could just rise again. Ito. They need the land, yeah. Down to 1. He has to block this with the singer. Tapos it's just a matter of activating this for the 2 life. Goodness. Okay. Yep. We have a next draft. Okay, we finished our dailies. We had 4 wins already, and I've basically secured a second draft. So yeah, we could just win as much as we can. Huh. This can be good once we draw a swamp, and it has Wall of Runes to help with that. And we get to draw more cards because our opponent goes first. Huh. Sige. Just a swamp. There you are. So I'd rather no, I think I just need one. I think I'll just no. I think I'll try to this one is the better. Yeah, so if he can manage to draw a land, he can kill this. Okay, block with this one, I think. This is good. Crap. There you are. Yep. Let's do this because this has hexproof. And let's not do that. Ano yan? Nakakarami. Three. No blocks. I'm gonna kill that next turn. Or pwede niyang Ooh. Okay. He can save one with this one. This one. Okay. No. Oh. Nice. Cute. Other creature ba? 6-2. Attacks muna. So the plan is to grasp any other creature that he manages to put down, like this one. Kasi I don't think he will attack though. Kasi I have death touch. Yeah, so grasp ko to. And then I don't think they will attack. Kasi meron nga ako nito. And meron din ako nito. So isa lang yung mamimili siya kung anong i-attack niya dyan eh. Kasi ito, papatay niya yan. Okay. Exile. So, okay, he has nothing. So I can now start attacking. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3. So I discard this. I kill that guy. Kasi I'm going to be able to cast this and kill this one. So, may swamp pa rin. I can attack. Nope. Lakas. Parang pwede niya isa-isahin yung warded battle rates niya. Maybe has something. Yes! I would have cast this next turn, so that would have been... Whew. Yan, I don't need that. Okay. If I reach this, I get to have another draft. Okay, let's try to win this. Last two. Okay, good night if yeah, this is good. We need to find a way to discard this, but I'm fairly happy with what I'm seeing now. God. I know. That's death touch pala. Stupid. Feeling ko maglalagay yan ng ano eh. Like, kung blue-white flyers, yung mga minstrel ba yan or something, prowess. Though I certainly wouldn't win a race versus this one currently, but let's see. Rousing dead. That is dead. Sorry. No, this one. It's gonna dive. cast it, I'm just 2 mana from doing exactly that. Well, he cannot. Okay, it's not a. I don't have a mountain, so I think we could stop with the lands here and just we can just draw our cards or stockpile the lands. Oh no. Let's see what. Huh. Sana I can get something nice. This one is. Seven. Yeah. Oh no. Ah, gosh. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. Down to one. Down to, I mean, down to one if we didn't fudge. Oh well. Yeah, well. Sayang. Mm-hmm. Sayang. Maybe I can go to my. Ah. I think I need to delete this. Yep. And 2 packs. Oh no. Okay. Yuck. Ano ba yan? Actually, I don't wanna... Parang pwede namang standard na lang. Pero... Yan, platinum na pareho. Yung standard naman, para ito, 3 wins na lang. Well, 3 sunod-sunod na wins. Para maging diamond na. But, how many days? 13 days, that's an eternity. Pet select. This is the pulube pala, so can't really change it. So what are we to do? Draft? Or just, you know, play standard? So I can just play standard, no? Nope, not this. This one. Yep. I'm gonna stop sending data to YouTube. Okay. Let's wait lang. Okay, let's see. This okay, which open. So, serrated scorpion muna.